and technical characteristics of Messerschmitt Me-262A1A aircraft. Engines, JMO 004B. Maximum thrust, kgf, 900. Wingspan, m, 12,65. Length of aircraft, m, 10.6. Height of the aircraft, m, 2,8. Wing area, square m, 21,7. Weight, kg. Empty airplane, 3,800. Takeoff weight, 6,400. Maximum takeoff weight, 7,140. Maximal speed, km/h. On the ground, 822. At an altitude of 3,000 m, 850. At an altitude of 6,000 m, 865. At an altitude of 10,000 m, 815. Rate of climb, m/s, 20. Flying range, km, 840. Practical ceiling, m, 11,450. Messerschmitt Me-262 Schwalbe/Sturmvogel was an aircraft that earned a place in the annals of world aviation as the first turbojet fighter to go into combat. Its development began in the autumn of 1938 when the firm received the contract to design the plane for two BMW turbojet engines R3302 with thrust up to 600 kgf. The engines were supposed to be ready for installation on the plane by December 1939, but these terms turned out to be too optimistic. Therefore, the Me-262 developers had to switch to an alternative propulsion system, the JMO 004 turbojet. In terms of design, Me-262 was an all-metal monoplane with a low-lying moderate sweep wing and single-wing nose. The engines were located in underwing nacelles. In early 1941 the airframe of the first Me-262 V1 prototype was ready, but the engines of both companies were still being finished. Therefore, as a temporary measure, a JMO 210G piston engine was installed in the nose section of the airplane, which allowed the Me-262 V1 to take off for the first time. On April 18, 1941. March 25, 1942. The first flight with a BMW 003 turbofan engine took place. The engine was not removed from the plane, which ended in a crash landing. On July 18, 1942. The Me-262 V3 with JMO 004A turbojet engine began testing. On October 1, 1942. Further refinement of the design led to the use of a new nose stand chassis, tested on the Me-262 V6, the first of the pre-production batch of Messerschmitt Me-262A0. Of 23 Messerschmitt Me-262A0 were built between November 1942 and February 1944, which were used to test various systems and then, for military tests. Deliveries of serial Me-262s to the Luftwaffe began in June 1944, when the production of turbojet engines finally succeeded. A total of 1930 Me-262s were produced at the Augsburg and Regensburg factories, of which the Luftwaffe received 1,433 machines, the rest were damaged or destroyed at the factories. The unofficial name Schwalbe was used for the fighter versions, Sturmvogel for the fighter-bomber versions. Combat use of Messerschmitt Me-262. To master the Me-262, an EK-262 test team was formed in Lechfeld in April 1944, with Messerschmitt test pilots as the core. At first the emphasis was on developing tactics to intercept Allied high-speed scouts. The first, unsuccessful, Mosquito was intercepted on July 25, 1944, so the Me-262 made its first combat flight 2 days before the British Meteor. In September 1944 the EK-262 was reorganized as Novotny's Command, after Commander Walter Novotny, and after his death in November 1944 as 3/JG7. Groups I and II of JG7 Squadron were formed, but were not fully staffed. The squadron's main task was to intercept American bombers in daylight conditions. By the end of the war the squadron and 3/JG7 had 427 air victories, including about 300 four-engine bombers. In August 1944 the Me-262A2 fighter bombers made their combat debut. These planes were used by the 1st and then the 2nd Squadron groups of KG-51. Later on, several more bomber squadrons, which were reorganized into fighter squadrons, received the Me-262A, KG, J-6, KG, J-27, KG, J-30, KG, J-54, NKG, J-55. In February 1945, under the command of Egalin, formed an elite fighter unit, JV-44, which began combat operations in early April. The only unit that had operated Me-262 B-1A/U-1 night fighters since February 1945 was the Welter Group, named after Commander K. Welter, which was renamed to 10/NJG-11 in April. The Luftwaffe Messerschmitt Me-262 was the first jet fighter to go into battle. Experience of its use showed that the machine could be successfully used to intercept enemy bombers, but in maneuvering air combat even against piston fighters it had difficulties. The Me-262 was most vulnerable on takeoff and landing.